Okay, so this one's for B2B SaaS companies. How to monopolize your market in 2024 without needing to raise money by becoming a master of attention and building an efficient go-to-market engine. So how I know this stuff works, what I'm going to be talking through, is plain and simple because I've done it. I've applied it for dozens of B2B SaaS companies. So we can see top left, here is a B2B SaaS company that I helped grow from 0 to 20 million ARR in less than 2 years, completely bootstrapped, still working with them today. Top right, we can see some ad spend and results. Bottom left, we can see the results of a single ad within an ad account over the last 14 days. This ad, we're pumping, over $1,500 per day profitably. And the reason why I bring this up is because attention is going to be a massive pillar in what I talk through here. And I just wanted to show the receipts that I'm actually doing this in practice. And then a quick background. If it's your first time watching a video on this channel, my name's Liam. My journey in SaaS started as an SDR at an American scale-up. I then joined an early stage startup where I had responsibilities across all of the go-to-market functions, so sales, trial activation, retention, etc. And then I actually went ahead and founded my own company, which exclusively works with B2B SaaS companies. So if you'd like to learn more about me, the type of work I do, the process, the proof, just go to digiseed.com and you'll be able to see all of that. So by now I've worked with dozens of 7, 8, 9-figure B2B SaaS companies, and my sweet spots are demand generation, go-to-market, solving product market fit, and messaging development. So to give some context as to what I'm going to be talking through in this document, it's really, really important to understand where we are right now with regards to software and what's led us here. So in 2011, Mark Andreessen, who's the co-founder of a VC firm and also a tech billionaire, he wrote a famous essay titled "Why Software is Eating the World," which described how quickly software was being adopted across the world, and it predicted future trends. And he wasn't far off, as we can see in this chart here by SaaS Capital Index. So Mark wrote this essay in 2011. And so we can see here, if you look at this chart, software just absolutely exploded, outdoing everything else. And this growth was catapulted even further after the world experienced, the big C in 2020, because overnight companies or the whole world was forced to go remote. And so the cloud-based infrastructure, which is really a foundational element of software companies, they're all cloud-based, it actually served its purpose despite all of the skeptics who thought it wouldn't. And so if people didn't believe in software before then, they certainly did when this sort of migration happened. The world's educational system was being delivered via Zoom, and so it held out. And so things continued to grow, peaked in 2021, where there were 121 tech IPOs. And so this was the largest number of tech IPOs that took place since the dot-com boom of the 90s. So you can see here, by University of Florida, 121 tech IPOs out of 311 total. The previous year, 46, 37. And then we can see things sort of dropped at around 2022. So this is when the bull market came to an end, and a significant amount of value was wiped from the market. Really, it was a market crash. And so companies went from these insane valuations, just growth, to moving towards being default alive. So this is a definition by Paul Graham. And so below is an email sent from YC, Y Combinator, to its portfolio companies, where essentially they're suggesting that these companies need to lean up. They need to cut their costs, they need to extend their runway if they want to survive. But by the time this email was sent, as we can see on this chart, it was just simply too late. And so that's why in 2022, we had over 1,000 tech companies laying off 160K employees. In 2023, we had over 1,100 tech companies laying off 260K employees. And if you look at 2024, we're only 2 weeks into the year, and already tech companies have laid off thousands and thousands of employees. So we're really still in the hurt locker. And so why did all this, positivity, this high growth era come to an end? Why did the market crash? So a lot of things happened during this period, before and during this period. We had Russia invading Ukraine in February 2022. All the money that was printed and pumped into the global economy as a result of the Big C caused hyperinflation, and just in general, consumer sentiment changed after Big C. As life went back to normal, as lessons didn't need to be delivered over Zoom. But I think in the context of software, we can really reduce it down to being known as growth at all costs, which was really a culture that was being pushed during this period. And so low interest rates made access to venture capital easier than before. More companies were being started because entrepreneurs were now incentivized. They could get funded. They could build these companies to insane valuations with the dream of going public and getting their payday. This was happening all around them. 121 tech IPOs in 2021. And so this desire to take cheap capital and ride this wave of software, it just resulted in chaos. Companies threw money at problems because they had it. Long CAC paybacks were acceptable. They were even welcomed by investors. Startups would grow from small teams to hundreds of people within the space of a year. They purchased expensive enterprise software with the hope it would increase revenue sales, and profitability was really put on the back burner, all in the name of growth. And so this culture caused inefficiencies and really incentivized bad behaviors at every level within an organization. And so these bloated go-to-market teams were just doing whatever it takes to hit their growth targets. Even the wrong type of people were being hired because they just needed more people. And so now we're entering the era of efficient growth. Operational and growth models that prioritize efficiency are really how SaaS companies are not only going to survive, but become the next category leaders, in contrast to their competitors who are bloated and not prioritizing efficiency. And so now that the party is over, access to capital is harder. Companies are really struggling to raise, or the terms are just not favorable. And now that the fat has been trimmed, we're entering a period where efficiency has now become the hot topic in town. And so I've been fortunate to have a front row seat with SaaS companies who were well ahead of their time and, were being built in the shadows while all of this chaos was happening. And they were able to do this because they prioritized attention, they prioritized velocity, and, most importantly, profitability. And so in this document, I'm going to be outlining a very, very small part of the methodology that we deploy in these companies and we continue to deploy today to really help them become these high growth orgs and, take market share from these incumbent category leaders who have become complacent. But first, really important to get something straight. Magic pills do not exist. After working with, one-to-one with dozens of founders and, actually operating businesses myself, most success can be attributed to sheer hard work and picking the right opportunity. Even the latest and greatest tactics are not going to work if you haven't built your company on solid foundations. And this is why YC's Y Combinator's slogan is build something people want. It's not something crazy filled with buzzwords. It's really, really simple, a simple principle. And it's because successful founders, they do the basics well. As humans, to live a healthy life, it's recommended we drink plenty of water, we sleep loads per night, and we eat a healthy, balanced diet. But, these are just the basics, but it's clearly evident that doing the basics, is in fact very difficult because most people don't do that. And, this would be the world if everybody did the basics well. And so if you're looking for a magic pill that will solve all of your growth problems, then this is not the video for you. If you're looking for like short-term growth hacks that sound great and, just require minimal or low work, then again, this is not the video for you. I'm not going to be sharing that type of stuff. And if you're at the idea stage and you're pre-product, then this is probably not the video for you. It's probably just not the right time because you need to focus on building a good product and getting those first paying customers. But that being said, if you have an existing product with paying customers, paying happy customers, and you're looking to build a repeatable growth process, then this is going to be the video for you. So let's jump in. And I'm going to be talking through a bunch of stuff. There's going to be like a bunch of resources. And so if you want access to any of those, just shoot me a DM or email me and I'll send them over to you. And so step one, you really want to discover what your market cares about. People buy SaaS products to solve a burning problem or to achieve a desired outcome. And really your product is the mechanism to solve that problem and help customers get to the promised land. So we've got state one, which is where your ideal customers are now. They're trying to get to state two, and really it's your product's job to take them there. And so most teams won't try to uncover these problems or desires. They'll just make assumptions, they'll cut corners, and they'll copy competitors instead. And so the outcome of this is usually surface level ideal customer personas or surface level buyer personas that just have firmographic and demographic attributes. Firmographic is company attributes, demographics are people level attributes. But if you want your message to resonate on a personal level and you want your campaigns to convert, then you need to be able to read the minds of your target audience. These firmographics, they tell us the what. The demographics tell us the who. But to achieve resonance, we must understand the why. And this is where the psychographics come into play. And the best way to do this is not by copying your competitors or, looking at HubSpot blogs. It's just by going to the horse's mouth, which is your market. And, sure, B2B purchase decisions are ultimately based on logic. Nobody's going to buy a 20K product because it makes them feel happy or makes them feel secure. But emotional resonance is especially important when creating demand in the first place, because if everything was just based on logic, all B2B purchase decisions were based on logic, then the first ad you ever saw from a company would just be a list of features, pricing, and then a phone number to call the salesperson and sign a contract, and it would be done, right? It'd be logical. But these decision makers like VP, C-suite, they don't really have time to surf around for products. And so they actually enter the buying process at a later stage. Yes, they might be signing the contract and they might hold the purse strings, but they enter the sales process at a later stage. Initially, you'll be creating demand with the end users and internal champions who will influence that purchase decision upwards to the decision makers. And so if you want to resonate with these personas, emotional buy-in is required. They're likely the ones your product will solve a problem for. So they either have the problem that your product solves or they manage the problem that your product solves. And so decision makers are going to have the final say over here on the left. Champion, these are going to be your internal advocates. So they're probably responsible for the problem, a department lead or something. And then the end user is probably going to be the person actually using the product who feels the problem, all right? And so there's a lot of emotions within this, feels the problem, there's going to be emotional connection there. Responsible for the problem, again, there's going to be emotional connection there. And so I have an internal methodology for this called desire discovery. And it helps us when we're working with B2B SaaS companies to understand those underlying desires, those challenges, those behaviors that motivate buyers to purchase. And so if we look at the three core human desires, we have wealth, health, relationships / mating. In the world of B2B, you're probably going to be over on the wealth side, unless you have a software product that can help people, lose weight and find their mate. Skip this step though, and you risk following the status quo, and you're just going to sound like everyone else. And it is the safe option, and it does work, and it will generate results, but it's not how you become a category leader and take the lion's share. If you want to beat the competition, you need to play at a different level. You can't copy an existing playbook because everyone else is already copying that playbook. And so, cognitive bias that affects software teams is the curse of knowledge. So it's when an individual communicating with other individuals unknowingly assumes that others have the background to understand. So in the context of marketing, these marketers know their product so well inside and out, and so they assume the target audience has the same level of knowledge, and so it just means there's a disconnect between their messaging and market perception. And so one of the activities to achieving this, to actually understanding what your market cares about, is voice of customer research. So going to be going through some activities you can do to do this. So when it comes to scheduling interviews, we want to select a varied group of customers. I like to speak with customers who have recently converted, as their motivations and challenges are still fresh, as well as customers who have renewed a minimum of a few times. So if your monthly subscriptions, minimum of like a few months. If it's annual subscriptions, minimum of 1 year. And that's because, there's a reason they must have stayed. And so you really want to uncover those. And as it says here, nobody understands the value of a product better than the ones willing to or who are already spending money on it, right? Again, we think our products are so great and we think we know what the value proposition is, but our thoughts are biased. Whereas if somebody's actually, spending money on our product or putting their reputation on the line, because if it goes wrong, they could get fired, they're going to understand the value of our product. So it's really, really important to uncover that. So I've got a one-to-one interview email here. So send this email out to people to get them on the interviews. And just as like an FYI, I've conducted a lot of interviews. Most people don't want to hop on interviews. It's plain and simple. And so using incentives are going to increase your success rate by like 2 to 3x. You need to give and take, make it beneficial for them. So when actually conducting the interviews, you want to introduce yourself and set the scene, give them context. You're taking their time here, so be polite. Really important that you have open-ended questions. Don't ask close-ended questions. So close-ended questions, they can be answered with yes or no. You really want to get the thoughts flowing. That's where you find the golden nuggets. And so if interviewees give you a vague answer, you just need to dig deeper. And this is why interviews are the best option for research, because you can ask them why. Like, why did you say that? How did that make you feel? You need to go down those rabbit holes. And so a really important element of these interviews are the questions themselves, the type of questions you're asking, because you can uncover all types of insights related to, who you should be targeting, how you should communicate to them, even how you should price your product. And so if you want access to the questions that I've perfected over time, just shoot me a DM. And so really important that you turn these interviews into insights. Don't make this process another checkbox exercise. This is why companies, fail in the first place, because they're just paying lip service to it. And so information becomes an insight when it is analyzed and the dots are connected. So as we can see in this illustration here, data is just kind of all this randomness, gives you a bit of a headache. And then slowly you want to connect the dots. You want to understand the context behind what they're saying. Where does it interconnect with other parts? And so we're trying to identify patterns and insights that can be leveraged as wedges. And so this is what I mean when I say a wedge, right? So these are little like wedges they put into these massive pieces of rock, right, that weigh tons and tons, but they're able to crack them straight down the middle with just a sledgehammer because they're using wedges. So it concentrates the point of force. And so we're trying to listen for the type of words they use to describe their problems, because that's how we want to describe their problems. How motivated are they to solve these problems? What happens if they don't solve these problems? What happens if they don't get to state 2? What goes wrong? Because we can really use that in our marketing to stir up emotion. And how do their problems appear in order of importance? We all have problems, but what problems do they really, really care about? What problems are really burning deeply? Because again, we want to leverage those. And at the end of this section, I'm going to be giving you a framework so you can actually be a bit more strategic with categorizing these insights. Because if you're doing interviews and surveys and all this stuff, it can just get quite noisy. And so it's really important that you package them correctly so they can be used across the funnel. All right, message mining. So message mining is researching instances of buyer personas or ideal customers voicing their challenges, desires, and fears about your category. So it lets you spot useful patterns and swipe, this precise syntax used by your target audience, so you can speak to them in a common language and target pain points they care about. This is kind of ties back to the curse of knowledge. B2B marketers or just companies, they use all these buzzwords and jargon that their ideal customers would never use. All right. And so message mining helps you speak to people in a language that resonates with them. If you're going to explain a product to your friend at a bar or at a cafe, whatever you like to do, you're probably not going to use all these buzzwords that marketers use. All right. So we need to speak to them in a casual language, because that's what's going to stand out while everyone else is using these buzzwords. And so I've got like a 34-minute video on YouTube about this message mining process that you can watch after this. But just to quickly explain the process, so we want to find the watering holes. And so the internet is filled with communities where groups of people with similar interests network and seek advice from each other. And in most cases, you want the information you're consuming to be as close to the source as possible. So a lot of content online is optimized for views and clicks. This is not the information you want to consume, right? Like these videos, very low edited. I'm not going for like entertainment or wow factor. I'm going for value. Whereas a lot of blogs online, a lot of YouTube videos, just a lot of content is all about engagement. It's not really about value, and it's not about truth. And so the more closed a community is, the more valuable it's going to be, because people feel more confident to share perhaps things that are a bit vulnerable, right? So watering holes, as you can see, all these animals congregate around the watering hole to drink water. We're looking for the watering holes on the internet where your ideal customers congregate. And so the type of places you can go to are public forums, private communities, and review platforms, which is review mining. I'm not sure if we talk about that in this video. So just some examples of me doing this in the wild. So here's Discord. I'm looking for, so this is in the context of lead generation. I'm in a Discord community looking for people talking about cold email, lead generation on Quora, Reddit. There's loads of subreddits about lead generation. And then looking at reviews, so going to like the review pages of competitors or similar products. There's lots and lots of gold out there. Perhaps looking at negative reviews to see what's wrong with those products, to find those like cracks in the armor. And so this example is saying for a cold email tool, I think it only allows you to add one email inbox at a time, which is very expensive compared to its competitors, right? That's like gold dust. That's something we can use in our marketing. We can use this pain point that this person experiences into our own value proposition. So if other people are experiencing this problem, it's going to resonate with them. And then eventually you can create your own watering hole. Community-led growth is a massive thing at the moment. Ideally, as soon as possible, you want to start funneling people to your own community, because again, they're going to be sharing insights. They're going to be communicating with each other. And, you can learn more about what features to build. You can start building a better product roadmap or a more informed product roadmap, use the things they're saying for messaging, hop on interviews with these people, invaluable. So again, the type of things the type of questions we're trying to answer is, what words are they using to describe their problems? How motivated are they? What happens if they don't solve these problems? And how do their problems appear in order of importance? Always, as marketers, or you're responsible for sales or anything like that, always you want to be having these questions in the back of your mind. And then we do want to have a look at competitors, but if you truly want to create a category leading product, then in most cases you will need to walk the unbeaten path, do what others aren't. And so the edge, or these wedges, are often discovered from conducting your own research and then capitalizing on it. Peter Thiel calls these secrets. And so analyzing competitors is useful for keeping a temperature check on trends, but avoid taking too much inspiration from them. There's a reason why when it comes to research, I've talked about customers and going to your market, far more impactful than just copying competitors. So yeah, as Peter Thiel here says, basically all failed companies fail to escape competition, right? You need to be operating in a lane of your own. So I've got a private file here, which isn't very useful for anyone, but I think this was related to competitive analysis. But as you can see, I do this. I live and breathe this. I'm not just preaching stuff that I haven't done myself. Really, really important. And so as promised, there's going to be a lot of data points here, a lot of information, a lot of noise. It's kind of sometimes tough to make sense of it all. And so here's a strategic way to categorize those findings. And so here is a heuristic. It's based on thousands of hours of research, and just really gives us a mind heuristic to increase the probability of conversion. So it might look complicated, but it's not. At a high level, this tells us that people are most likely to buy when they're motivated. That's the M. They understand the value proposition. That's the V. They are incentivized. That's the I. And friction is minimized because this is a detractor. And then finally, risk is reduced. So that's anxiety. And so when analyzing your research, you need to consider what buckets your insights fall into. Is it related to motivation, which are desired outcomes, pain points, challenges, purchase prompts? Or is it related to value propositions, which like features and benefits, nice to have, deal breakers? Or anxiety, which is like these uncertainties, these objections they have, perceived risk. Is this going to work for me? Is it too expensive? All that kind of stuff are anxieties. And so if we go back to this review that I showed up earlier, this user of a competing product, they're sharing their frustration related to features and pricing of a product. And so this is going to be categorized under V, the value proposition, as it's related to desired features and benefits. And so this is something you want to leverage in your messaging. Perhaps when they're lower in your funnel, that's when you want to maybe start doing a bit more product marketing and talking about features. And so that's when you will then bring that in, like, hey, look, with our product, we have XYZ, and kind of, throwing stones at the competitor. All right, so key takeaways for this section then. So you want to view your ideal customers as people, not companies. although you might be selling B2B, you're trying to influence people who have their own desires, problems, and biases. Really think about those end users, those internal champions who are going to be fighting the good fight. You want to collect insights from multiple sources to minimize your own biases. Like the thing with voice of customer research is it's good, but you're speaking with people who have already converted, have already purchased your product. So probably going to say positive things, right? And you want to close the loop on your research by categorizing it into buckets. Don't just let it be crazy noise and data. Connect the dots, because then you can leverage those insights in your go-to-market motions. All right, moving on. So number 2, we want to develop a narrative with unique points of view. So a narrative is an overarching framework for communicating your message. So completing the previous step is going to give you the inputs required to develop a compelling narrative, or at a very minimum, a hypothesis of what should be your narrative. So, these things are always dynamic, ever changing. You don't want to just put all of your eggs in one basket and stay with that. So you might just have a hypothesis of what the market cares about and how you should communicate your message. But nonetheless, still important to go through this process. Because most selling now takes place via online interactions, having a narrative ensures your message carries the highest level of potency at all times when you're distributing it via marketing, your ads, your email, your content, and also your sales, your argument, and your script. Just having a narrative is going to help you communicate the value proposition of your product more effectively during sales. So really, really important. And so if we take a look at competition, here's an illustration of the number of companies within G2 category. So G2 is a review platform, and it's just, the market is crowded. Look at email marketing software. There's over 500 products, marketing automation, 390. You get the picture. There's so much competition out there. And so standing out with a unique message is more important than ever. Product categories are overflowing with competitive products, like we've just seen. The barrier to entry for building software has lowered due to advancements in AI. The sort of time frame for building a product has gone from like years to months due to AI, and that's no exaggeration. And the number of startups launched per year continues to grow significantly. People are more incentivized to start businesses now because of the financial upside due to economic things that have been happening, and also just because the barrier to entry has lowered, more people are willing to do it now. And so companies with weak or absent narratives are just going to fail to stand out. They're going to fail to get demand and subsequently going to fail to stay ahead of their competition. Whereas in contrast, companies with a strong narrative, they're going to be able to capture the lion's share of attention, and so they're going to experience more growth as a result. And so having a narrative gives structure and direction to your message, meaning it always ties back to your product's value and remains relevant. And the further you stray away from this relevancy, the weaker its impact. Really, really important. I can't stress this enough. The having a narrative is sort of your guardrails for your message. Speak about stuff that isn't relevant. You're not going to create that loyal tribe. You're not going to be known as that expert within your product category. Whereas if you are relevant, people are going to think of certain things. It could be, cold email. It could be paid ads. It could be HR, if you're in HR software. And they're going to think of you because you're the expert who's been flying the flag in that place. And so to build authority in a category or with a niche, you need to be relevant. So when I say the following statements, what tools do you think of? I want to record a video of my screen. I want to build an e-commerce store. I want to send cold emails. Even though there are dozens of products that can provide solutions to these questions, you most likely thought of 1 to 2 products. And that's because, they've worked on their narrative. They've worked on building that brand affinity with the market. And so looking at the narrative itself, key variables can be found below, but I do have an in-depth video running through a narrative. So you've got core message, you've got your audience, it needs to resonate with certain people. You've got story to really get that emotional buy-in, that journey from state 1 to state 2 and all the obstacles in between there. And then how you differ from other solutions in the market, not just at a product level, but a message level as well, just how you resonate with the market. So recommend watching that video afterwards if you want to dig into that. And so question here, what's the difference between a narrative and product positioning? So product positioning is something you need to solve first because it's an input to develop your narrative. Without first having clarity about your product positioning, you risk distributing a narrative that people don't relate with or doesn't position your product as unique. And so you can also have excellent product positioning, but nobody knows who you are due to weak narrative. So really important to solve both of them. Product position is an input that you use to develop your narrative, right? You're selling a product here at the end of the day, so you don't want to have all this great marketing and then no product to back it up. And so once you have your narrative, you can then go on to become the go-to voice of authority, right? And so just some context here. So only 3 to 5% of buyers, B2B buyers, are in market, right? And this is based on research. And so only 3 to 5% of the market are looking to purchase a product at any given time. And these are referred to as in-market buyers because they are in market. And so these buyers are the ones that, search for high intent keywords, they're booking demos with multiple vendors, and they're scouting the market. They are low hanging fruit, and they come at a premium price as a result because, they're in market, they're looking to buy a product. So everyone's fighting for their attention. And so if 3 to 5% of the market are in market, that means most of the market isn't actively purchasing software, and these are known as out-of-market buyers. And so they might already have a solution in place, and potentially they're days, weeks, months, years away from being in another buying cycle because they might be in annual contracts, multi-year deals. And so in most cases, if your brand recognition is low, these out-of-market buyers, they probably don't know who you are. They probably don't know who your product does, and it's possible they don't even know why your category exists or why they need a solution, depending on how competitive your market is. They might not even know why you exist, and this makes marketing really, really hard. And so hence messaging that's exclusively focused on product marketing and hard call to actions, it results in a higher CPA because the results diminish due to saturation of the in-market buyers because it's such a small part of the market. And it doesn't resonate with out-of-market buyers because you're pitching a solution they just don't need or understand. You're pitching features and how great your product is when they've already got a product, And so a better argument needs to be formed as to why they should switch to you. And just a statement here, yeah. So people don't jump out of bed in the morning and decide to spend thousands on software. People don't just click an ad and buy software unless it's really, really cheap. These purchase decisions often take months. Logical arguments have to be formed internally, but then also there needs to be an emotional argument formed from you to them. And so, this takes time and it requires comprehensive marketing. And this is why B2B is so different from D2C. Is D2C could be impulse purchases, right? Just buy a $20 t-shirts or some perfume. Whereas in B2B, these are internal arguments need to be formed. And so it takes time. And so one of the most effective ways to do this is demand creation. So demand creation is the process of marketing to these out-of-market buyers. And so while the ultimate aim of demand creation is to achieve business objectives like revenue growth, right? That's the aim of, or should be the aim of all marketing, is to grow the company. The leading indicators for demand creation are engagement metrics. And really this is a tough pill to swallow for most teams and most companies because historically they've been measured and incentivized, so actually like paid commission and bonuses, by easily tracked events such as form submissions. So this obsession with software-based attribution has led to companies incentivizing, counterproductive behaviors such as prioritizing MQLs through gated content because it's easy to track, and it often leads to high volume of these MQLs but poor quality leads that don't convert into sales. And so just because somebody downloads a lead magnet or a piece of content, that does not mean they want to buy or they're ready to buy your product. And so a telltale sign of a misaligned and immature organization is when they celebrate these high volume of leads and their low cost per lead, despite only a fraction of them actually converting into customers. Marketing is celebrating they've hit their lead goal, but sales is kind of wondering why half the team can't hit their quota. So really, really important. If you want me to dig deeper into this type of stuff, it's a very broad topic, can do, but this is a problem. This is a plague at SaaS companies. Marketing and sales just completely misaligned, not rowing in the same direction. And so this sort of short-term behavior can be categorized as lead generation. It's a lead generation mindset where marketing and sales don't work together. They work in isolation. So marketing is focusing on generating leads and sales is focusing on opportunities. So if you pay people, whether it be commission or bonus, probably most likely bonus in marketing, based on the number of leads they're going to get, they're going to do whatever they can to get the number of leads. But that doesn't necessarily connect to sales, right? Because not all leads are created equal. And so in lead generation, they have these short-term behaviors that don't align with how buyers purchase software. And so as a result, they generate low intent leads, these gated content where you have to give your email to download an ebook or something like that. And what they're doing is they're assuming intent. They're saying, okay, well, this person has downloaded a piece of content. They must want to buy a product. Let's hammer them with cold emails. Let's get the sales team to call them. Let's focus on them. When in fact, no, they just want an ebook. They don't want to purchase your software, right? And so this is known as the MQL hamster wheel. In contrast to demand generation, where marketing and sales are aligned. They're aligned on what matters, which is pipeline velocity and revenue growth. Marketing they actually have a business objective on their shoulders rather than just getting leads. They're actually incentivized for the company to grow. And so this incentivizes long-term behaviors that, educate the market, and it enables buyers, increasing the volume of inbound leads and declared intent conversion. So it's assumed intent is, hey, somebody's downloaded our product. They must want to, somebody's downloaded some content. They must want to buy our product. We're assuming they have intent. Whereas declared intent is somebody who has requested a demo, for example, of your product. So clearly they have declared, I want to engage in a sales conversation. Far, far higher intent than somebody who's downloaded a piece of content. And so here we've got the 99% and the 1% rule. So even if somebody doesn't click, engage, or take action on your content, they're still consuming it. The purpose of that content has been served. And so this historical obsession with marketers having complete visibility means that companies have been biased towards tactics that involve software attribution instead of tailoring their approach to how people actually buy. Markets today are way too competitive for you as a company to be forcing buyers to play by your rules. They would simply just go to another company where the buyer can play by their rules, right? And so let me riff on this just for a bit, right? So if you post like a piece of content, such a small percentage of the impressions on that content are actually going to result in engagement, right? People liking, commenting, or visiting your website. But there's still the 99% of those impressions that still might have watched your content or might have seen it on their feed. And there's a lot of influence happening with that 99%. But marketers and companies have just been so obsessed with this 1%. Where they're just leaving so much more on the table, and so they've always optimized for this 1%, which is just then incentivize the wrong behaviors. And so here's again some proof of this. So this was a data set published by an ad tech company. So they analyzed $42 million in ad spend. 90% of the budget was allocated to lead gen campaigns. So people saying, hey, download this piece of content, give us your email and we'll send you this ebook. And so on average, these companies paid $126 on average to get a lead, which is really just an email, just a contact email, which you can get for 1 cent on data platforms. And it took 333 of these leads to get one customer, which is a 0.3% conversion rate, right? Absolutely terrible. And so the ad CAC payback, so the customer acquisition cost for these campaigns on average was 21 months to break even on acquiring a customer, right? And so is the demand waterfall methodology still the right methodology to be following today when we're entering this era of efficient growth, right? Probably not, right? This is the growth at all costs mindset, just paying stupid money to acquire leads. And so we've talked about demand creation. That kind of sets the context. What's the most effective way to create demand? And we'll talk through that now. So the B2B buyer's journey has changed. Before a prospect searches for these high intent keywords on Google or books a call with your sales rep, which is where software attribution starts, the form submission adds the contact to your CRM. They've already done their research. They've already fleshed out their requirements. They've watched content, whether it be yours or your competitors, and they've spoken with their peers to get an honest opinion, right? They've gone, hey, who's using this tool? What do you think of it, right? This is what happens. And so there are dozens of similar competing products offering all similar things. And so buyers have many options. They don't need to speak to sales reps to get their information, right? They don't need to speak to a really young sales rep who's incentivized by short-term commission. They don't need to speak to these people to get their information, they'll just go to YouTube. They'll just do a Google search. They'll just go into their private Slack community with all of their peers and just go, hey, who's using this software, and get an honest opinion. And so they can do all of this research without ever actually engaging your company. And so if most of the buying process is happening before the sales call, then why would you not want to influence this like critical part of the buyer's journey? You know, the sales call that's taking place, really, that's towards the end of the journey. That's just where like then it becomes commercials and a logical argument. And so content is one of the biggest levers to influence this beginning part, earlier part of the buyer's journey, and therefore demand creation. And so even if your target audience is not in an active buying cycle, they're still going to be consuming content. You know, LinkedIn, Meta, TikTok, YouTube, all of these social platforms today, they're the new television channels. I couldn't tell you the last time I switched on the TV and watched a TV program, but I do, you know, watch YouTube occasionally and other social media platforms, right? And, you know, research here, people on average spend 2.5 hours on social media daily. I know people that do a lot more than this, right? And so people are always consuming this content. And as we can see here, some of these SaaS companies, these are all high growth SaaS companies. They understand this. They're posting content, you know, G from Lempire, Instantly. I think this is Cognism, Adam Robinson. So bootstrapped a company from 0 to 20 million ARR. And he's saying, you know, he's basically hammering home the point of how important content has been for that. You know, these guys actually reduced their sales team significantly, and their growth increased because they focused on demand creation, not focusing on like you know, this sales-led methodology. I can't remember this company over here. I think it's like Hype Fury or something. But you know, these companies are all high growth. They're all extremely profitable because they know the power of demand creation. And so companies who fail to effectively create demand, they struggle with high CPAs or high CAC because nobody knows who they are. You know, they're trying to convert cold audiences while having minimal brand affinity in the marketplace. And so as a result, they just sound like every other company who's pitch slapping. They're just being commoditized. They're just being compared, you know, on features and pricing because nobody knows who they are. There's no trust there. There's no likability. Whereas on the other hand, companies who do understand this, you know, all of these companies, they're harvesting more attention because they're distributing constant value and insightful content that their target audience actually resonates with. You know, not every piece of content is pitching their product. They've taken time to understand their audience and build, you know, these content engines that resonate with them. They're increasing authority and trust by aligning their content with their overall narrative, ensuring it remains relevant. So all of these individual pieces of content connect back to their narrative that they're trying to push. So they remain relevant. They become authoritative figures for specific topics. You know, it gets to the point where you start searching keywords on YouTube or TikTok or anywhere else, and these are the guys that are coming up because of a solid narrative. And so they're decreasing their CPAs and CAC because they're creating this halo effect with content. And so people, you know, they're consuming this content on a daily basis. And what that content does is it creates this halo effect where when eventually these people do get retargeted or targeted with your ads, they're like, oh yeah, I recognize those guys. I know who they are. And so it has this positive effect, which is often invisible, but it's happening. And so that means, you know, they go faster and more efficiently. And so this is the impact of content, right? Imagine you just have this virtual army of sales reps who are distributing your message 24/7, 365, you know, no sick days, no holidays. That's what authority content does. You know, wherever these people go, whether they're scrolling through LinkedIn on their phone or watching YouTube videos, you're there distributing your narrative. And so none of these brands, right, none of these people, they just woke up one day and became content experts. They're able to consistently post this value-based and authoritative content because of systems, right? Really, systems are the OS of a business. And so I've got some resources here on how to build these content engines. I actually recorded a 90-minute video course for a director of marketing at a B2B SaaS company, which I'm giving away to you. So if you want access to any of this, just DM me and I'll give it to you. So content ideation, how to come up with content ideas. I have a live walkthrough of me doing this with ChatGPT. I have a live walkthrough of me doing this manually. So I generated 17 content ideas in 13 minutes. I timed it all. How to actually create the content then. So like frameworks, even I've got a bunch of templates here that you can use to create the content, hook templates, frameworks to follow, all that kind of stuff, really giving you the cheat sheets So there's no excuse. And then systemizing it all, building the engine. When I record this video, I don't edit it, I don't upload it. There's a system on the back end that happens so that, I'm focusing on the highest leverage tasks, just like all of these guys, right? They don't edit their own videos. There's a system behind it, how they can reformat these videos to post them on other platforms to really amplify the impact. And so I talk through that. So just let me know if you want access to that. And then finally, the next one is how to build an efficient outbound go-to-market motion. So this is more focused on authority content, outbound, really, really effective go-to-market motion in 2024. And it's how I know it's so impactful is because almost every B2B tech company uses it for customer acquisition. It's a really reliable method that was popularized by Predictable Revenue by Aaron Ross. He helped build the inside sales team processes at Salesforce. Really knowledgeable guy. And I'm a big outbound advocate. I started my journey in SaaS as an SDR, doing outbound for a living, getting rejected for a living. And outbound continues to be a source of revenue for my companies and, across my client portfolio. Outbound is a key growth driver. However, because everyone's still running the same playbook from 2011, it's become much harder over time as companies have just rinsed and repeated the same playbooks. And even according to research, SDR performance has steadily been decreasing. So here we can see over time, this is the quality conversations, number of quality conversations that an SDR has per day. It's dropping. Law of shitty click-throughs, marketing tactics, over time, the results diminish. And so these results diminishing, combined with companies aiming to be default live, this kind of desire for efficient growth, the current way of doing outbound and everything associated with it is being questioned, rightly so, right? The average salary of an SDR in North America is $57K. I think it's actually all the way up to $80K. I saw another source. So this is just off one source. The entry cost of popular data platforms to fuel these outbound motions is, $10,000 a pop per, annual contract. The entry cost for the sales engagements software to actually send these emails, again, $10,000 a pop. So it's really, really expensive. And so this predictable revenue operating model, it promoted humans enabled by technology, whereas the new model promotes technology enabled by humans. It's faster, better, and cheaper. And so the old way was scaled by people. It was inefficient because scalability was limited. You needed more people at $60K a pop. It's expensive because the people and tools are expensive. It's risky. At like a technical level, the way these emails are being sent, they're all being channeled through the primary domain, which results in primary domains being blacklisted. Unfortunately, people don't like being cold emailed. And so a percentage of people will report your emails as spam, which affects your primary domain. And it's just flawed because we're putting such a impactful go-to-market motion in the hands of what are often the most junior people within an organization, right? Typically, SDRs are people fresh out of university. Wasn't my case, but still really young, very junior, a lot to learn in the world of software. And we're putting the responsibility of our go-to-market, outbound go-to-market motions in their hands, right? And so it's just fundamentally flawed. And so the new way is scaled by technology. It's efficient because there's infinite scale. It's just, we're leveraging code, right? We're just leveraging compute power rather than people. It's cost effective because an individual's output can be significantly increased with this leverage. And so we're also reducing the costs and overheads because we require less people. Risk mitigation, we're using some technical controls to basically preserve your primary domain's reputation and also enable horizontal scale. And it's not fundamentally flawed because in this model, we're using marketers who know copywriting, they know how to leverage code, and they can manage this all programmatically. And so this is where we enter growth ops, which is a new trend that's happening right now. So if we look at the evolution of growth marketing, I'm not going to go through all of this, but this is where we are here now, the era of generative AI. And so with the recent AI boom and automation being more desirable for companies who want to efficiently and effectively scale their outbound go-to-market motions, there's a new requirement for skills and competencies that has emerged. The growth ops and the growth engineers, marketers who sit within this department, they already exist. There's innovative SaaS companies out there. I could share a bunch of examples of these companies who are already ahead of the curve and have already been doing this for years already. However, the requirement to build custom systems and processes has become lesser over time as the market heats up with new products. So these companies who have been ahead of the curve, they've built these bespoke custom systems to do this. However, with the tech available today, this just isn't a requirement. You can do it in-house. And as a result of this, 80% of what an SDR does on a daily basis can be automated today. There's no doubt about it. Researching leads, personalizing emails, adding leads to a CRM, manually clicking send in a sales engagement tool because all your tasks are queued up. I've done this. And a common objection to all of this is AI really that good? AI will never be able to write an email as good as an SDR can. And this is just completely false. If we break the activities an SDR does to personalize those emails, and we break those activities down into their individual parts, we then discover the building blocks which we can use to build a system which can be executed programmatically. That was a mouthful. But as we can see here, here's me being complimented on an email that I sent, and they're asking how did you determine our ICP? How did you do research on these companies? And, spoiler alert, this was all done programmatically because I had to build the system and I had to kind of do the back end. But once that back end was set up, I can email thousands, tens of thousands of leads, and it's just going to execute programmatically. So, this is a big trend we're going to see well, it's already happening, but we're going to see more of it. More companies adopt this growth ops function. And so, some flows of how this, you can use this generative AI. Really basic flow, and this is what most SDRs do, is they visit a prospect's LinkedIn profile, they determine what university they went to, and then they create a personalized message based on university. This is classic with American SDRs, like, hey, noticed you went to University X, go Bucks, or something like that. You're right. That's how they personalize their emails. Whereas we can go super advanced with AI. That would take several minutes for a human to do. So we can visit the company's LinkedIn profile. We can determine how many marketers. Just checking we're still recording. Yeah, we can determine how many marketers they have at that company. If the company has more than 5 marketers, we can continue because this company now becomes qualified. Otherwise not qualified. We can use the company's website to determine their ICP. We can research that ICP to uncover demographics and psychographics, and then we can create a personalized and relevant email, right? And so we're just going to absolutely blow these people away, showing, hey, look, I've done this research, whereas under the hood, it's actually being executed programmatically. But I will say AI does still have its limitations, and there will always need to be a human element. The point here is that the majority of what happens today can be automated. And, one thing is certainly true is the future is lean. We just do not need these people-intensive teams to be doing all of these tasks manually. A lot of this can be automated. And that's really where, the growth ops function comes into play with these growth engineers who understand marketing. They understand how to persuade, but they also understand how to build systems. There's going to be a massive demand for these, and there already is. This is what we're already implementing for companies we work with. Okay, so taking it a step further with intent. So we can estimate that 5% of buyers are in an active buying cycle, so these in-market buyers. But how do we identify these before competitors do, right? Everyone's going to be fighting for their attention. How do we get there first? Or how can we identify when these out-of-market buyers do move in market, because it's going to happen eventually. We don't know if it's tomorrow, next week, but how do we identify when that happens? And if you've done a lot of outbound, you'll know that timing is key. The amount of responses I've had, they were like, oh yeah, we're actually looking for XYZ at the moment, like good timing. So it's absolutely key. And so there are lots of tools out there today that can help you do this. They can help you target the right person with the right message at precisely the right time. Some examples of different triggers. When a new job advert is posted, you can trigger it, send an email. And what this means is, maybe company is looking to expand into a particular market or a new team. They're expanding their sales team. They might need some sales software or marketing software. To give you an example, we can trigger campaigns when a new technology has been installed. So perhaps they're building out a new capability. Perhaps they've installed your competitor and you want to provide an alternative opinion. A negative review has been posted on platforms. We can monitor this and trigger flows. So perhaps company is dropping a ball and they need assistance in a particular area. Somebody visits your website. They could be browsing options. They could be in market. They could be solution aware, looking for solutions. And so we want to follow up with them. And this is sort of one of the most basic ones. And look at here. So this is a Series A company, quite known in the software space, and they've attributed over 46% of their growth to outbound using these signals, right? So they work, the proof's in the pudding. And so just imagine if you could monitor your whole TAM and just know exactly when companies within that TAM are showing purchase intent, right? You can today, and the response to setting up these triggers and the response to those triggers can be fully automated. When somebody comes in market, you can be the first there, providing some support. And so companies that take advantage of this will be able to move past these previous inefficiencies and focus on higher leverage tasks such as demand creation and sales. The whole aim of this stuff isn't just to have this fully automated AI run business. It's to automate or try to automate most of the stuff that was previously just taking so much time. You do not need expensive people doing these manual tasks. Put them onto higher leverage tasks that are going to increase your sales velocity, increase your revenue sales, and try to automate as much as possible of the lower leverage tasks. And so in 2022, in context of outbound, you were ahead of the game if you're using secondary domains, inbox rotation, and domain warming. But today, this is all the base standard. And if some of this stuff I'm saying to you, like using secondary domains and all this kind of stuff, if that's new to you, then apologies, but you're already behind the game. This was new years ago, and it's quickly becoming the base standard, quickly becoming adopted. And so as the market sophisticates, you need to level up if you want to stand out. Just using secondary domains and sending more emails, that's not going to get you ahead. You need to level up. You need to be using, these intent signals. You need to be using generative AI to get ahead, right? And so, if this is news to you, apologies, you're behind. And I actually recorded a short Loom video breaking this outbound engine down in more detail. Again, so let me know if you want access. So key takeaways of this section: high growth outbound go-to-market motions are going to be scaled by technology, not people. People are still very much in the picture, but they're going to be focusing on high leverage tasks. Growth ops will emerge as a critical function to enable this. Actively monitoring for purchase intent will help you get there before competitors do. Really help you proactively spot purchase intent or when people are moving in market. Okay, so I think this is the final one. Pouring fuel on your narrative with paid media. So notice how the sequential order here, paid media is once you've kind of figured the other stuff out. And so paid media campaigns are guaranteed distribution to your ideal customers. You can get your message in front of ideal customers, right? And so, but if the message you distribute is bad, whether that be related to the offer, your overarching narrative, or the ad creative itself, you will struggle to succeed with paid media. Just using a channel such as paid media doesn't guarantee, it doesn't entitle you to results, right? It's how you leverage the channel. This is what I see with SaaS companies. They're like, oh, we're running paid ads and it doesn't work for us. And then you scratch beneath the surface and they're just doing it terribly. And so just paying Facebook to run ads isn't going to get you results. It's actually the tactics, the methodology of how you do that is what gets the results, because everyone else is doing it. So historically, paid advertising has been quite technical. But all this technical stuff, the tactics like, campaign structures, bidding strategies, all these optimizations, these have just become table stakes. You can learn this stuff within a few hours or, just a week on YouTube. You can learn all the technical stuff. Whereas today, most of the leverage in paid advertising is via the creatives. It's creative led. When everyone's following the same tactics and playbooks, the same campaign structures, the same bidding strategies, all that stuff. It's the campaigns of most resonance that stand out. And so this is messaging that speaks directly to your target audience. Your target audience's fears, wants, desires, and interests. So this is why paid media has come now, and developing your narrative has come first. Using a healthy mix of campaigns and not just exclusively focusing on product marketing to effectively create demand. Remember, those out-of-market buyers probably don't care about your features. And so we want to get that emotional buy-in with demand creation. And then consistently testing different ideas, concepts in a systematic way to maximize ad spend. The example I showed you at the beginning, I think I'm about to show you again, this is the result of testing new concepts, in a scientific approach. It wasn't luck. We engineered this ad to go viral, and nobody has ever beat the competition because they had the right bidding strategy in place, right? It just doesn't exist. And so ideally, you're going to form and validate your narrative through efficient channels first. And then you can take the winning concepts from those channels, from your outbound campaigns, from your authority content, to then scale them and get guaranteed distribution with paid media. If you fail to do this, if you kind of mix the order of events, you're going to pay the price. And that might be absolutely fine if you've got the capital to do so. And, you'd rather get there faster and pay the price. But for most companies, if efficient growth is the priority, then I really recommend, coming up with a narrative, validating it through organic channels. And then when you hit the nerve, scaling it with paid media. And so looking at the campaign hierarchy that we use, you have your narrative at the top. Depending on if you want to create demand or capture demand, you have these different campaign buckets. So these are the ones I recommend. Don't put all of your eggs into one basket, just, exclusively launch product marketing ads, because what if that doesn't resonate? And so you always need to test which variables resonate with people. So demand creation, thought leadership, content, product marketing, social proof. Whereas demand capture, these are people who already have intent. They're already solution aware, product aware. Then, okay, we can make it more logical, talk about features, capabilities, benefits of your product, why it's better than other products on the market, and show proof of people getting value from your products. Performance creative. So, as I said, highest leverage in paid advertising today is creatives. And you just know when this is going well, right? Your CPAs drop, your traffic increases, your pipeline velocity and sales increase. An individual high performing ad, just one ad, can outperform the sum results of the previous 20 ads. Like, that's how impactful this is, right? It's the 80-20 principle. And so here we can see an example filtered last 14 days. And as we can see, it's filtered to a specific ad. So I'm not trying to pull the wool over your eyes here. And for this ad today, at the time of this recording, which is a bit later than this time frame, we're pumping over $1,500 per day into this ad, and it's extremely profitable. And the reason we're able to do that is because we engineered, an ad that we knew would perform well, right? So millions of impressions here. We can see thousands of conversions as well. And so whether this ad, an argument could be made that, oh, well, Liam, it's how do you know this ad is the one that got the conversions, right? Especially in B2B where sales cycles are longer and you need those multiple touch points. Really, they're all playing a part. But objectively speaking, if you're able to consistently create ads like that perform like this, you're gonna succeed. You're gonna perform better than everyone else who is not creating ads like this, right? So multi-touch attribution aside, if you're creating banger ads like this, you're gonna perform better than everyone else. And so one of the secrets for us being able to achieve this is our creative feedback loop. And we do this because ad creatives are such an important variable in paid advertising. Paid advertising. You need to have a robust system for testing and measuring the performance of those creatives. So for this, we use our creative feedback loop. It's enabled us to keep the costs low and maintain a high velocity of growth because we're keeping our campaigns fresh and we're continuously expanding into new audiences. When you're scaling paid ads, audiences saturate very quickly. They get used to seeing the same ad all the time. So you constantly need to refresh things, We replicate success because we're identifying, what's working at a tactical level. We're identifying what's working, why these ads performing well. And we really break it down into a science, what are the colors we're using, what's the framework we're using, what angle is it, what type of content bucket does it fit into? So then we can replicate success. And the inverse is that is to figuring out what doesn't work and then, avoiding that. And then so it enables us to maintain an edge because we're avoiding inertia, which is just doing nothing and just going, oh, my ads are performing well, I'm just going to leave them spending, because we're always testing what resonates with the market. We're not doing what everyone else is doing. We're trying new innovative ideas. And this is why copying your competitors is just such a poor strategy, because it's just a great way to remain average. And so we split the creative feedback loop into three sections. So we've got the creative data report. This is the what. This is the quantitative report. Often we put it into a spreadsheet. There's tools out there that can do this automatically, but I prefer to be deep into the numbers because then I get the clarity and context. And it helps us understand, what ads are performing well, what ads aren't performing well. And we compare these numbers with our internal creative benchmarks that we've built up, just over time working with these companies. So we know what industries, what sort of benchmarks should they be hitting. And so depending on the format of your ad, metrics tell a different story. For example, if a motion ad has a low thumb stop ratio, which is calculated by this, but a high conversion rate, it tells us that the hook fails to grab attention. And so this enables us to focus our efforts. So we're really trying to break it down into a science. How engaged are the first 3 seconds of the video? How many people are converting? How many viewers are being retained? Because then that helps us focus our efforts to a specific area within the ad. So we really need to break it down into a science. And it's important, especially in the context of B2B, you'll notice that ad platform data and CRM data usually tell a different picture. And so in the ad platform, it might be, this ad has a low click-through rate and isn't performing so well. But then you look in your CRM and this ad, has tens of thousands of dollars of pipeline generated. Well, then it's probably a good ad. Although it has a low click-through rate and the ad platform saying it's bad, really it is resulting in business. So we're always looping it back to business objectives. Don't get tunnel vision by ad platform. Creative insight report. So this is where we're turning the what into the why. So this is qualitative data. So yeah, we're turning the quantitative data into a why and a so what, so it can be action. So we're actually turning these numbers into insights now. So for example, the what could be ad one has a low thumb stop ratio and a high conversion rate. Why this is happening is because the hook fails to grab attention. And so the so what is, okay, well now we're going to experiment with 2 new visual hooks to make the ad more captivating. So we've turned the numbers into, qualitative insights into actions to take. Very scientific. And then finally, the new creative batch. So then, we're actually turning the numbers and the qualitative stuff into actually taking action and pumping out new ads. And so this is when we action the insights, create a new batch of ads. Often we will create new iterations of losing and winning ads. Even if an ad is performing well, we're always trying to beat that control. That winning ad I showed you, we were trying to beat the current control of the ad account, and man, we beat it by like 5 to 6x. And so, what most companies would do is, this ad is performing well, let's just leave it. But, we're always trying to beat the control, and we're always trying to improve the losers as well. And yeah, if you'd like to see the process of all of this, just let me know and I'll put together a training. Okay, final thoughts. I don't know how long this video is, but I think it's pretty long. So growth at all costs, this culture is well and truly over. The next category leaders of software companies will be companies that put efficiency into the picture and really prioritize it. If you want to lower customer acquisition costs and you want to stand out from the competition, you need to focus on building a unique narrative, and then you need to ruthlessly distribute that narrative via marketing channels. Validate it organically and then amplify it with paid media. And so hope you found this valuable. If you'd like a team that can help you with any of this, whether it be actually execution or just providing a second opinion and a fresh perspective, just DM me. I love geeking out about this stuff. You can DM me on social channels. You can go to the website and book a call. And, happy to provide some case studies of us actually doing this in practice upon request. So, right, hope you found that valuable. See you on the next one.